All right, welcome back to the channel. Cody here, Hart Fabrication. Got a simple project today. We got to put a gate right there. I've already got the measurements. Let's get into it. We're gonna get this thing drawn up and get to fabricating. All right, got it all drawn out here. Let's go cut. All right, we got our saw set up. It's the Evolution 14-inch miter saw. So this thing you can turn the table whichever way you want to, 45 degrees both ways. It is super handy for doing gates and handrails. So the first cut is gonna be a 45-degree cut, and then it's 56 inches long, 45 on the bottom, and it's gonna be a long side to long side. So you can see it makes a really nice cut. I mean, it's not hot at all. You can hold your hand to it. It's the reason they call it a cold cut saw, but I mean, very minimal burrs, just an all around great saw. So that's the first 45. Let me get my tape measure. So it's 56 inches, and 56 is right there. We'll just take our square. This saw does have a light. It shines a light on the blade and you actually have a shadow line, and I can see it pretty good right now, but sometimes when the sun hits it just right in the shop, I can't see it. So I like to mark the metal anyway. Here we go. So that's one. Now I've already got, from that cut, I've already got a 45, so I'll just flip this over and utilize that 45, and I'll mark 56 again. All day. Here we go. All right, our next measurement is 43 3/8. That's gonna be the top and the bottom pieces. So we'll get those cut, and then we'll be doing some welding. Got all the burrs, all the edges cleaned up on the 45-degree cuts. Now normally that saw is pretty good and not leaving any burrs, but I put it in a bind not long ago, and I think I broke one of the teeth off. Considering that, it still cuts pretty good. So we're gonna take and clamp this down here. Now, you can see here what's happened. Over there, it's hanging off the table. We'll just take some clamps, just lightly clamp it there, hardly any pressure at all. All right, next thing is to take this square and just check it. That is way out. And that is way out. So I should have done this first. Let me regroup here. Let me unclamp this. That's pretty close there. So now we'll come out here, snug that. Now square. Same thing over here. We're gonna loosen this one. Dead nuts. All right, now it's close enough I can adjust it. So anyway, now that I got this square down here and those clamps there, even though that's hanging off the table, I got some, I call them step overs, some C-clamp, vice grip style, and I can clamp it down there. And the reason I'm clamping this here, when I tack that at the bottom, I don't want it to draw something crazy, because even though it's clamped, you'll be surprised at what a little bit of heat can do. We'll get this clamped up. All right, that's good for temporary. Good and flush there. You can see down at the bottom we've gapped back open, but we'll fix that. Just check it here. Yeah, that's really, really close. Yeah, that's very close. After it's tacked, I just tack it on this outside corner here, on all 4 corners, and then I'll get a corner to corner measurement, and that is a better square measurement rather than using that on the corners, because you get all the way across both corners, you get that number the same, you're pretty dead nut square. So we're gonna get this tightened up, we'll keep on rolling. Well, got a little ahead of myself, forgot to turn the gas on. All right, now that we got it tacked, I can take those vice grip clamps off, and I can leave everything else on it for the moment while I check corner to corner. That is 70 and a shy 7/8. And that is 70 and a heavy 15/16. So it's pretty close. That's 7/8, this is 15/16. So what needs to happen is this needs to bump back just a little bit. Well, that side can go back or this side can go up. So since I'm down here with the hammer, I'm just gonna bump this up. All right. Sometimes that's all it takes. Just tap it in. All right, that's 70 and 7/8. And that's just under 15/16. So we'll do that again. All right, that is 70 and just over 7/8. So that one's at 15/16, so we got to bump it back actually. That's in between 15/16 and 7/8, and so is that. So that is dead square, corner to corner. I'm fine with that. So I'm gonna get it clamped off and tack it on out. I think I'm just gonna tack the inside twice, one up here, one down at the bottom, and then it'll be tacked there, there, and there, and it's pretty well had. All right, now that that's tacked off, I'm probably going to weld the top and the inside, and I'll go from here to there, and then I'll go from there to this corner over here. We're gonna get it welded out and move on to the next step. All right, we got this side welded out. I'm gonna take the flapper disc, smooth those welds out, flip it over, weld that side. I'm not even gonna video it because it's just the same thing. So I'm gonna do that, and then we'll move on to the laying out the spindles. All right, this part of the video might get kind of confusing. I'm gonna explain it the best I can. I'm gonna explain my process for laying out spindles equally. With this formula that I use, you can get equal spacing from here all the way to here. And I do this on my handrails, my gates, everything that requires a spindle or a picket that's gotta be spaced the same, I use this formula. So the first thing you wanna do is get your inside measurement of your opening, which in this case is 40 and a half. 40 and a half inside our frame here. Now I use 3/4 inch pickets, 3/4 square, usually on all my handrails, and I'm gonna use it on this gate here. This is just a drop piece, this is not cut to length. I'm using it for the example here. So this is a 3/4 spindle, so the outside measurement of this is 3/4. Now, to start this off, we've got 40 and a half inside measurement. Now when you get your inside measurement, you wanna add your picket size, which is in this case is 3/4. So we got 40 and a half inside plus our spindle diameter, which is 3/4. So 40 and a half plus 3/4 equals 41 and a quarter. Now we're gonna use that 41 and a quarter Now on this gate, my desired spacing is 6 inches in between the pickets. On handrails, it has to be 4 inches or less, but on this gate, I'm gonna use 6 inches because this really doesn't have to be the code. So you take this 41 1/4, in this example, you take 41 1/4 because that's 40 1/2 inside measurement plus your spindle width equals 41 1/4. You also have to take your desired spacing, which in my case now is 6 inches, and add your spindle width to that also. So we're gonna take that 41 1/4 and divide it by 6 3/4. So we're at 41 1/4 divided by 6 3/4 equals 6.1 continuous. Next, we take 41 1/4 again. So you want to take 6.111 and round it up to the nearest whole number, which is 7. So we'll take 41 1/4 and divide that by 7. And that gives us 5.893. Now that there is the number you're looking for. So what I do, because I can't do 893 on a tape measure, I'll take these calipers here, I'll zero them out and put it on 5.893. So we got 5.8 and then we'll go 9, 1, 2, 3. So this here is set on 5.893. And here's the reason that I like doing this method is because I can take this caliper and I can butt it up inside of this frame here and I can just mark all the way down it. I'll do a little bit more explaining once I get this marked. And there's a surefire way to know you've done this right when you get to the end, just like that. All right, so this thing is going to require 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spindles. So one way to tell if you've done this right, I don't know if you can see it over here, I marked right there. You butt it up on the inside and mark it all the way down. When you get to the end, if you take your caliper or whatever you're using and act like you're gonna mark the next one, if this here lands the width of whatever you're using, so in this case, it's a 3/4 inch spindle, I should be 3/4 past this edge here, and I'm exactly 3/4. I'm right in half. I got it marked right there. I can double check it. I mean, it's just a smidge above 3/4. That's the method I used. I'll recap a little bit. So you take your inside measurement, add your spindle width, whatever that number is, you divide it by your desired spacing plus your spindle width. So in this case, our desired spacing was 6 inches and our spindle width is 3/4, so 6 3/4. So we take our inside measurement plus spindle width, 41 1/4, divide that by desired spacing plus spindle width, which is 6 3/4. 41 1/4 divided by 6 3/4 equals 6.111 continuous. Now, that number that you get there, so that told me there, I knew already that 6.111, that was telling me I'm gonna have 6 spindles. But you gotta round it up because if you went 6, this would not work out. You have to round it up to the next whole number, so in this case 7. So I take 41 1/4, divide it by 7, and that gave me 5.893. Set your calipers to that, or whatever you can get to get those 3 decimal places, and you butt it up on the inside. And like I said, that's why I like it, because I can butt it up here, and when I mark this, I'm marking this edge. I don't have to mark center and come back, or mark center and go forward. I know I can line this edge up on my marks on every one of them. So if you want to double check it, I just go the extra one onto my last post here, And if my spindle width past this edge, I know I've done it right. And in this case, I'm using 1.5 inch tubing and 3/4 inch spindles. So half of 1.5 inches is 3/4. So I know that if my calipers are in the center of this tubing, I'm good to go. I don't know if you got that. That's my method for laying out spindles. Maybe it wasn't too confusing. I've done it so much, so I understand it really good. It's just hard for me to explain to where you can understand it very good. But anyway, let's get these spindles cut and put in here, and we are gonna keep on rolling. All right, I got the spindles all welded out, good and solid. Got some good looking beads on them. Next thing we gotta do is gotta get on the CNC cutter and find the H that I like. I think the one in the beginning of the video is one I'm gonna use, but I'm gonna cut a circle with an H in it, and I'm gonna take some 14 gauge steel and wrap a band around it so that I can weld these spindles to it. That's how I usually do it. It looks pretty good, so we're gonna get right to it. All right, we got the H cut out. You can see here, it's gonna go somewhere in there like that. I gotta cut out the spindles to allow this to recess down in there. What I'm gonna do is see, this is real thin 14 gauge, so you can't weld spindles to it. So what I'm gonna do is I'll take a piece of that 14 gauge plate and cut me a long strip, and I'll take this piece. I'll just demonstrate roughly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a piece probably an inch wide or so, and I'll tack it, and I'll roll it and tack it, roll it and tack it, roll it and tack it. And when I get done, I'll have a band. Instead of it being this thin, it'll be about a 1 inch wide band all the way around it. And that'll allow this, I'll be able to cut my spindles, and this will recess down in there, and then I can weld my spindles back to that band that's gonna go right there. So I gotta do that tomorrow. My wife has informed me that it's time to leave. It is Valentine's Day, and we're taking the kids out to eat, and she said I gotta pay for it. So that's all well and good. I appreciate the watch, and if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, we are on day 2 of this gate. It's Saturday. We got to get the band welded on this H so that I can recess it down in them spindles. I'm gonna get the hinges welded on, get the latch welded on, and then I'll probably go ahead and install it before I take it to powder coat. That way, after it's powder coated and I get it back, the install will be pretty fast. So we're gonna get everything set up. Y'all stay tuned. You know, like I said, that flat piece is gonna go this way, perpendicular to this edge. To get the length that you need to cut, it's very simple. You just take your diameter, which in this case 16, times pi. So pi times 16 equals 50.265. So we'll just add about a 1/2 inch to, that way we don't cut ourselves too short. So we're gonna cut a flat piece. I'm just gonna say 50 3/4. And that will be long enough for us to wrap it around this H and put a border on it so that I can set it down in my spindles and weld it. All right, got the band cut out. I don't know how well you can see that, but we'll get it cleaned up and rolled around that H. All right, so now that I got all the parts cut and ready, essentially what all I'm doing, I'm gonna start right here, I'm gonna tack it. And then I'm gonna roll and tack it. Roll, tack, roll and tack all the way down until I've got a border around this H. And that gives me somewhere to weld my spindles to. And I'm just gonna eyeball center. All right. So I'm just gonna roll it on off. See, this is why you cut a little extra. See, it's lapped over a little bit. I can just snip that off, and then if I was short, I would have been in a mess. All right, so I've got it tacked 1, 2, 3, 4 times. All I gotta do now is cut off about 1/4 inch of it. We'll cut it off and finish it on up. That's pretty close there. I think that's good enough. All right, that's what we was looking for. All right, the H is done, and we're ready to cut the spindles and get it set in place. All right, we got this H in the center. The next thing, we just got to make sure it's turned this way, right? I did it with my eyeball, so that's 24 and just over 1/8. And that's 24 and 1/8. I'm just gonna leave it right there. So we're gonna mark these spindles. And there was a purpose to me making this 16 inches. I wanted it to be as big as possible, but I didn't want to have to make some weird cope out on the spindle. So I went 16 inches was just big enough that I could stay in between these two and only have to cut these two center spindles. So we'll mark those. Now we have our spindles marked. This next step is very important. What I like to do is just get you a scrap piece of whatever. Get out far enough where you're not impeding your grinder and tack it. So I'll tack the two we're cutting, and then I'll tack the two outside the ones we're cutting. That way they're held in place with this bar here. I'll do another one down there. Do the same thing there. Take and tack it 4 times. And then I'll be able to cut these spindles and these won't move so that I don't have to fix it later. I like tacking on one side. That way, possibly you can take something and break them all off. If you tack them opposite sides, you've got it locked in. So we're gonna cut these marks here. And see, these here stayed right where they needed to. Now I can fit this in place That's exactly what we were looking for. So we're gonna get this tacked in there and I'll see y'all at the next step. All right, I finally got it right where I want it. We're gonna tack it off so it does not move. All right, the H is in place. Let's see how it looks. I think it looks pretty good. Now you can see what I was talking about with that band. I have somewhere to weld spindles to. See, I couldn't weld the spindles to that thin H, so you got to put a border around it. Turned out pretty good. All right, we're gonna get this we're gonna get this H welded. And then after that, we are on what I like to call the short road. Let's see if we can break this brace off. Oh yeah. That's why you tack it on one side. All right, let's get the hinges and the latch on. All right, I'm about to get these hinges put on. They're just regular hardware store style hinges. This is gonna be powder coated, so sandblasted and powder coated. I'm not really worried about this shiny finish. I'm gonna put them on this side because the welds on this H on this side, and I want this to be facing towards my alley, not towards the outside where everybody's gonna see. So I need to make sure I put them on the right side. All I'm doing, usually I just do what looks good. That's about 6 inches from the bottom. That's gonna be good there. And the way I always put these hinges on, I just fold it over where it's a good tight 90, and I just tack, and then I'll weld it out. So we're gonna do this top and bottom and then get the latch on. Before I weld them out, I'm gonna stand it up, make sure I've got my ducts in a row here. Yep. These welds cleaned up, on to the next. All right, gotta flip it over to do this latch. And again, on the latch, same thing as the hinges. I got both of them from the hardware store. Just an automatic flip latch, you know, gate closes and it catches. So this will just be screwed to the post. Pin will be welded somewhere down here. I'll just go 6 inches like I did on the hinges. All right, I think that's everything. Let's go put it up. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pre-install this gate. You can see I got some 6x6s with a 2x6 on the top. That's what I'm using to space it from the bottom. Originally, I was gonna do about 6 inches, but I think I like 8 inches because it gets a little higher. So shouldn't be too much of an ordeal. This opening is not exactly level. Still have my hood on. So like I was saying, this opening is not exactly level. It's a little wider at the top than it is the bottom. I'm gonna have to split the difference because I built my gate square. See what the difference is. It's about 3/16 difference from top to bottom. That's probably about a 1/4 inch right there. We'll get a screw in it and then do some measuring. Got it held in place. That is 3/16. We'll double check. Man, that's a good eyeball right there. It's 3/16. 3/16. I should be able to take these boards out. I'll go ahead and put these screws in it. So we got the same gap top to bottom on this side, but the opening is a little wider at the top, so the gap on this side is a little different. My gate is square and this is not, so, but it's not enough that anybody will ever notice it. I won't tell nobody if you don't tell nobody. Ow. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So now, I actually used the screws that came with the latch for the hinges, because the screws that came with the hinges are way smaller in diameter and length than what came with this. So I'm going to use the screws that came with this for that. I'll be right back. All right, this part is really simple. Just take this latch here, latch it on your pin, push your gate to, hold it tight. I like to put it roughly halfway on that pin there. That looks pretty good right there. All right. And there it is. After I get this gate powder coated, all I got to do is take it off the hinges, take the gate off, go get it powder coated, and when I bring it back, the install will be way faster. I don't have to do all that I just did with it being powder coated and risk messing up the coat. So there's the gate. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed making the video. I plan on making more videos doing stuff like this and projects for customers. This project is for myself, well, for my wife actually, but either way, I enjoy doing stuff like this. I love to DIY, love to fabricate. So if you enjoy this content, give me a like and make sure you subscribe, leave a comment. But I appreciate the watch, and y'all stay tuned for the next one.